Welcome to the Class Warfare Report, Working Class Observer, transmission 07082020. Thank you for joining me. Another busy day, earlier recording stream than normal, which is pretty cool. Not sure where I'm gonna go, but I'm kind of bouncing off of this Kanye news because I am a huge Kanye fan. And he is going into politics in an interesting way, let's say the least. In an interesting way. We can definitely see where we're going to go today, because it's always going to be a different place probably. But like I've said earlier, it's likely that Kanye isn't taking this all that seriously. He hasn't made a platform or a statement or really much. But we'll get into that. For now, I want to play this clip, originally from a Kanye interview. Back when he dropped Yeezus. Not a lot of people are going to agree with me, but it's one of my favorite Kanye albums. And yeah, this is from when he came out with Yeezus, I think in 2013, talking to Zane Lowe. So let's hear it.
We got this new thing called classism. It's racism's cousin. This is what we do to hold people back. This is what we do. And we got this other thing that's also been working for a long time where you don't have to be racist anymore. It's called self-hate. It works on itself. It's like real estate of racism. Where just like that, when someone comes up and says something like, I am a god, everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was, a god. I just told you, that's who I think I am. Would it have been better if I had a song that said, I am a nigga? Or if I had a song that said, I'm a gangster? Or if I had a song that said, I am a pimp? All those colors and patinas fit better on a person like me, right? But to say you are a god, especially when you got shipped over to the country that you're in and your last name is a slave owner's. How could you say that? How could you have that mentality?
Kanye's definitely always had his moments. That's why it's always kind of hard for me to pin him down exactly and figure out how I feel about him, but he's always had his moments. And those are one of those moments where, to a lot of people, it is pretty crazy that he said he was a god. For a lot of people, that's probably the craziest shit you could ever say. But a lot of the things that Kanye said in that minute, I think if he elaborated more on, people wouldn't think he's crazy, but maybe he is more of a curious wanderer at that. I think to hear his thoughts elaborated more on classism, self-hate, and being a god, I think all of that would be very interesting, but all we get are these like little pieces. So it's not really enough to form like a great picture of Kanye, especially when we're trying to consider him for president. Yep. But, you know, that's one of my favorite Kanye moments, right next to George Bush doesn't care about black people. I think that was when he was really real and honest, and it caught Mike Myers by surprise, which was fucking awesome to watch. It was just a sight to behold. But we are moving on because finally, even though so far we still don't have anything official from Kanye that actually legitimizes his campaign, we do have an interview here from Forbes. I'm sure everybody's been talking about it, but unfortunately I had my 9-to-5 wage slave to earn, and I've been missing out a lot. But I want to go over it because, like I said earlier, I'm a Kanye West fan, and I've been following his in and out runs since 2016. So let's see what I can get here. All right, we got the full story. What a cover. You got Elon, you got Barack, Black Panther, Kim Kardashian, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Jared Kushner. Oh, look, in a COVID-19 vaccine picture, there's a church as well. It says vote now with another button over there. Wow. There's a lot going on behind Kanye's head, and it doesn't look like too much to do with his actual presidency. So let's continue. Oh, you can listen to this article. So Forbes now has you able to listen to this article, or you can listen to me. So the article goes, Kanye West's 4th of July declaration via tweet that he was running for president lit the internet on fire, even as pundits were trying to discern how serious he was. Over the course of 4 rambling hours of interviews on Tuesday, the billionaire rapper turned sneaker mogul revealed, I didn't know that he actually... Over the course of 4 rambling hours of interviews on Tuesday. Is it... Okay. Did he only talk to Forbes? Because, like, over the course of 4 rambling hours of interviews, like, was that mini interviews, or was that... It's a very weird way of saying that as well, and also condescending because I was saying rambling, but, you know, he could have been. He could have been. Kanye rants. So we got bullet points here from Forbes. It says that he's running for president in 2020 under a new banner, the birthday party. And to be honest with you, I think I heard of Kanye call his party the birthday party before. But the article continues with the guidance from Elon Musk and an obscure vice presidential candidate he's already chosen. Quote, like anything I've ever done in my life, says West, I'm doing to win, unquote. There's another second point here, is that he no longer supports President Trump. Quote, I am taking the red hat off with this interview, unquote. So, was he wearing it up until that point? Like, now that I'm having my official interview for president, now I'm taking my MAGA hat off because it's not going to help my campaign services or my campaign mission. So, cool. It says on the next point here that he's okay with siphoning off black votes from the Democratic nominee, thus helping Trump. Quote, I'm not denying it. I just told you. To say the black vote is democratic is a form of racism and white supremacy. I got the hiccups. That's one hell of a point there. I would agree that Democrats do take black votes for granted. When I spoke of Kanye West siphoning votes, I actually didn't specifically focus on the black community. I just thought his platform is more likely to take voters from Biden. Like, he's going to have a what we would consider maybe more progressive, but like, I could be wrong. I could be wrong because we don't have a platform from him, even though what he said right here is actually a right-wing conservative talking point. To say that the black vote is democratic is a form of racism and white supremacy. That whole sentence is a conservative alt-right talking point. But yeah, I didn't think like black voters specifically. I thought people who would, one, want to troll the country, two, actually believe Kanye is the better choice out of the lesser of two evils. And yeah, three is that Trump's base is actually just so... They back him because of the positions he's already taken. So, like, Kanye's not going to be able to take votes from that. And if he does, I would be extremely surprised. But, yeah, I didn't think the black vote was the only thing he was going to take from Biden. I just thought votes in general. The next point here says that he's never voted in his life. The next point after that was that he was sick with COVID-19 in February. Interesting. And the next point after that, he's suspicious of a coronavirus vaccine, terming vaccines, quote, the mark of the beast, unquote. All right, so we have a very conservative talking point up here with the black vote is democratic, or the Democrats owning the black vote. That's a conservative talking point. And then also the mark of the beast tends to be a right-wing position, mainly because it's steeped in conspiracy theories and the whole anti-vaccine movement. So that's great. The next point is that he believes, quote, Planned Parenthoods have been placed inside cities by white supremacists to do the devil's work, unquote. I'm gonna need some data on that. I'm gonna need a study or maybe better stats. But what I'm worried about is that Kanye could bring a very fundamentalist government at this point by his language here, Mark of the Beast and Devil's Work. It seems like a lot of his politics is informed through the work of Christ, and the separation of church and state is very important in order to maintain a fair and balanced government. So I'm kind of wondering if he's seen Handmaid's Tale, A Handmaid's Tale. And if not, I feel like he should watch it. I know it's full of just white people mostly, but it's a pretty good show about American fascism that's also rooted in fundamentalism and theology. Yep. The last point here says that he envisions a White House organizational model based on the secret country of Wakanda and Black Panther. Almost every point in here hits a level of absurdity that definitely tells a lot of people that he's not worth taking seriously. So I can't wait to see how he actually expands on this if he does like further public appearances, because he's gonna have to explain himself if he wants to be taken seriously. All right. So I guess we have the actual article here, and I can get his full words rather than reading these points. And so I'm going to try and say addendum when I interject so that it's not the writer's words or my words in the writer's mouth or article. So to begin, maybe I should find the credit of who wrote this first. It's by Randall Lane. He is from Forbes. What does that say? He's a chief content editor, or chief content officer and editor. Yep. All right. So, and he starts his article like this, and that's just for starters. He's starting it off of the bulletin points. For much of the phone calls, his core message strategically was that he has 30 days to make a final decision about running for president. At that point, he says he'd missed the filing deadline for most states, though he believes an argument could be made to get onto any ballot he's missed, citing coronavirus issues. Quote, I'm speaking with experts. I'm going to speak with Jared Kushner, the White House, with Biden, says West. Addendum here from me. It does, at least that's the most I've seen, is that he is looking into filing to make it onto the ballots. But again, he's running under the birthday party, so he doesn't need any... I don't know what the official documentation he needs at this point, because he's his own political party, so he doesn't have to win anybody's primary or nomination. So it's all interesting. Maybe what's even better to look at is how Theodore Roosevelt went about with his third-party candidacy back in 1913, because that's the historical parallel I talked about in my last transmission. So it might be good to understand, because he had a different name for his third party as well. It wasn't under any third party we've heard of before. So it'd be interesting to know exactly how Teddy had gotten that through. The article continues. Kanye West has no campaign apparatus of any kind. His advisors right now, he says, are the two people who notably endorsed him on the 4th. His wife, Kim Kardashian West, and Elon Musk, of whom he says, quote, we've been talking about this for years, unquote. West adds, quote, I proposed to him to be the head of our space program, unquote. Oh, man. So, an addendum here is that I've been watching Elon's politics on Twitter. His politics are much more pronounced than Kanye's. And Elon Musk is definitely more on the side of what would be a Randian, objectivist, libertarian, it seems like. But he also kind of I don't know. He flirts with flat fascism a little bit with the way he toys with conspiracy theories, and also he told everybody to take a red pill while also posting a red rose. He takes even buzzwords or certain symbols from left wing politics and reappropriates them under his own use, even though he has said Chomsky sucks multiple times. And then also, what was also weird is Chomsky sucks, but somehow Bakunin does not. Um, it would be cool if Musk could elaborate why Mikhail Bakunin is not or is cooler, better, is I don't understand how he gets the separation from Chomsky and Bakunin. Like, what it is that divides the line of one sucks and the other is worth reading. Which also bothers me because Bakunin is harder to read than Chomsky. Chomsky is a summation of anarchism from the past, whereas Bakunin is the theory evolving. So, yep. And the article continues. An hour into the interview, the hedging was done. He says he definitely plans to run in 2020 versus his original plan in 2024. The campaign slogan? Yes. It's YES with an exclamation point. His running mate is Michelle Tidball, an obscure preacher for Wyoming. And why the birthday party? He said, because when we win, it's everybody's birthday. Unquote. Okay. So he's definitely working on the marketing very well, but again, like, we in 2020 we have enough spectacle. We need a lot more substance and leadership. So I think everybody like Trump, Biden, West, and Musk are all more focused on impressing their rich friends with how well they can run the country rather than actually running it for the people who need it the most, which is everybody in the working class, I believe. Not even necessarily in the working class, as a new class is building called the useless class. But, yeah, people on the bottom need a lot more than people on the top, but I feel like everybody who is running for president is out to serve and impress the top 10% of American society, and maybe even around the world. I don't know how close oligarchies are around the world. I'm not in those inner circles, but I just feel like none of this has to do with people on the bottom. So let's keep moving. The article continues. If it all sounds like a parody or a particularly surreal episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Wes doesn't seem to be in on it. Calling from his ranch near Cody, Wyoming, where he says that he registered to vote for the first time on Monday, West denies it is a publicity stunt for his upcoming album. Quote, I give my album away for free, unquote. As a music fan, I am excited to know that Kanye is coming out with a new album. Because we didn't get Turbo Graphics and we didn't get Yandhi. We got Ye, which was in 2018, and Ye actually was pretty good. Like, from what was the first song in that? Was it Yikes? I don't think it was Yikes. Ye actually was one of my favorites because it did feel like a sequel to Yeezus a bit, where it's like this kind of unfocused experimental hip hop album for Ye or for Kanye. But the Jesus is King one, I think I like the first half of the album and then fell off the rest of the half, which is sad to say because it's only 20 minutes long. No, it's 47. It's about 40 minutes long, close to 40. Kids See Ghosts was a lot better than Jesus is King, to be perfectly honest with you. And I didn't listen to the gospel album, mainly because I just, I don't really find gospel music to be that entertaining. But I am excited to hear that he's got a new upcoming album. That Wash Your Hands in Our Blood, that was a very interesting song and moment. Honestly, I like This Is America better. I feel like This Is America actually hit a lot harder too. But yeah, yeah, he is denying it's a publicity stunt for his upcoming album, which I had not heard of before. But that's totally cool that we're getting a new album. I just hope that it's a little bit more focused than what Jesus is King was. Jesus was King was not very... It's kind of all over the place, but not one of my favorites. It did seem a bit rushed. Yeezus is one of my favorites. Yay, it's pretty good. Kids See Ghosts, pretty good. I liked what he did on Pusha T's album, the last one to come out, that had Infrared on it. Ye produced all the beats. Yeah, all right, cool. I'd much rather just have this album than him running for president. But again, like, maybe he can deliver on some substance. We'll see. We don't know. I doubt it. Keep it moving. The article says, a few weeks after he ended 2 separate text chains with me with the message Trump 2020 and a fist raised high, he insists he lost confidence in the president. Quote, it looks like one big mess to me. I don't like that I caught wind that he hid in the bunker, unquote. West also says that he contracted the coronavirus in late February, though he maintains that that had nothing to do with his thoughts on running this year. Very strange that the bunker situation may be the only problem for him. I feel like there's a lot more to harp on Trump for, but again, that's maybe for the debate stage. It's pretty interesting that he says that he caught coronavirus in February, because I think our first case was around January 31st, around the same time that he shut down flights from China. So it's pretty interesting that Kanye here had contracted even before most lockdowns had been enacted. I think it was about a month later that most of the country went under lockdown. So interesting timing in that regard. The article continues. That said, he won't say much more against Trump. He's much less shy about criticizing Biden, which certainly won't tamp down the idea that the birthday party is a ruse to help re-elect Trump. Quote, I'm not saying Trump's in my way. He may be part of my way. And Joe Biden, like, come on, man, please, you know? Obama's special. Trump's special. We say Kanye West is special. America needs special people that lead. Bill Clinton, special. Joe Biden's not special. I'm gonna add my addendum here that is pretty. That's all nonsense, bro. I can't back a candidate who just talks like this. That Trump is special. Obama was special. Bill Clinton was special. Like, what is it that makes these specific people special? And elaborate on these things. He even says, we say Kanye West is special. So I don't know. It's fascinating because he doesn't seem to like even really want to put up that big of a fight against Trump for any policy reasons, issue reasons. And I think there is a lot of reasons that Kanye West should be more critical of Trump. But again, I don't see his perspective, so I'm not sure what he sees. Joe Biden's not special. I do agree with that. He's not special. He's a run-of-the-mill candidate, but I don't think Joe Biden is any less special than Bill Clinton. And I think the only thing that we can really equate to Obama being special as a president, and this is to take into account the policy measures and things that he did. And it by no means am I trying to be racist in this, but it's just because he was our first black president that makes him special. Everything else he did was according to the neoliberalist handbook. Like, he continued the legacy that even George Bush had put in front of him, which was following the legacy of Bill Clinton, who was following the legacy of his predecessors, or his predecessor's father. So, yep. And I don't think Kanye is gonna. He has anywhere near close to the connections in the politosphere. Like, at least I think Trump had somewhere around 20 to 30 years dealing with politics in a manner with like his whole businesses in New York and Las Vegas. But I don't know about Kanye. It seems like he's got experience because he talked to Trump, and maybe he's talked to some more people and gotten clearer pictures, but I don't know. Let's keep moving here. On his natural political party, it says, quote, "I would run as a Republican if Trump wasn't there. I will run as an independent if Trump is there." Interesting that he thinks he's a Republican. Fascinating. And it's even more fascinating that he thinks that the Republican Party would accept him. But maybe they would. Maybe they would. On his previous support for Trump, quote, "Trump is the closest president we've had in years to allowing God to still be part of the conversation." Ooh, that is why he supports Trump, is because Trump brings more God to the conversation, when we know separation of church and state is very American. It's very important to our democracy. So again, I'm worried that Kanye would lean more into this fascist fundamentalist side. But again, his politics aren't clear enough, so we're not sure. The article continues on his MAGA hat moment, quote, "One of the main reasons I wore the red hat as a protest to the segregation of votes in the black community. Also, other than the fact that I like Trump hotels and the saxophones in the lobby." These are horrible reasons. These are horrible reasons to support racist iconography. That's what it is. It's a racist symbol, and no matter what color you're wearing it, you're representing a administration or regime that suppresses LGBTQ and also has been quietly emboldening white supremacy in this country. I don't even know why I said quietly. They're not quietly doing it. We're gonna get in more into that. I can't wait till I get to this Daily Wire video, but yeah, the fact that he can't see the emboldening of white supremacy by Trump as just as bad as any policy that he could make, yeah, that's a major blind spot and makes me worried for Kanye to be a leader. I don't think he seems to be very fit because he seems pretty disconnected from what's actually going on. And the fact that he wears a MAGA hat because he likes Trump hotels and the saxophones in the lobby. On discussions on race with the White House, quote, "One time I talked to Jared Kushner, who was saying, 'We don't have black leaders. We just have hustlers.' Why? Because they killed all the black leaders." Unquote. So, requests for comment from the White House and the Kushner companies last night were not immediately returned. Interesting. Very fascinating that is the only thing he had to say about race issues in the White House and how he feels about leadership dealing with race issues. As we see like actual lynchings on the rise, hate crimes committed also being heightened. It's just so fascinating. The only thing that he says is Jared Kushner and just kind of throwing a label on black people, saying black leaders, they don't have black leaders, they have hustlers, and all the black leaders were killed. What I find pretty fascinating in this as well is that a lot of us on the left have come to recognize that governments, politicians, banks, corporations, it doesn't matter really. There's a myriad of ways where leaders are actually just hustlers, because the only thing that separates a leader from a hustler is intent. And most of the time when you have somebody selfishly motivated, you have more of a hustler. But if you have someone who is selflessly motivated, more altruistic, maybe even sacrificial to the point of martyrdom, that's an actual leader. I consider somebody who's just looking out for themselves as a hustler. I might even consider Jared Kushner to be a hustler. Yep. It's just sad that that's all Kanye West has to say about that specific issue, because he was the guy who said George Bush does not care about black people, He could recognize that back then during Hurricane Katrina. I don't know what he's missing now when there have been so many acts of hate. And they're holding on to heritage, the whole statues, monuments. It'd be interesting to get his vote on that. But here is the largest answer he has here. Here's the largest answer he has here. And unfortunately, now I'm starting to think Kanye is there to help re-elect Donald Trump, but at the same time to continue convincing people over to Trump's side. All right. Quote on Democrats. That is a form of racism and white supremacy and white control to say that all black people need to be Democrat and to assume that me running is me splitting the vote. Again, and I'm interrupting Kanye here. I did not say that he was going to take only black voters. So for him to say me saying that he's going to split the vote, I don't have any racist or white supremacist intentions. I never mentioned the black vote. He's just going to split the vote in general. There is going to be white and brown and Asian descent. All of them are going to split off of Joe Biden because nobody really wants to vote for Joe Biden either. But honestly, judging by Kanye's early platforms right now, the way he's already going about it, I actually don't see a lot of people going Kanye's route. Just because a lot of this is just some dumb bullshit. But it does seem like the kind of thing that Candace Owens would be saying if she was running for Democrat. Or, I mean, not for Democrat, but if she was running for office. All of this sounds like Candace Owens talking points that I've heard. So, moving through this quote on Democrats, all of that information is being charged up on social media platforms by Democrats. And Democrats used to tell me, the same Democrats have threatened me. The reason why this is the first day I registered to vote is because I was scared. I was told that if I voted on Trump, my music career would be over. I was threatened into being in one party. I was threatened as a celebrity into being in one party. I was threatened as a black man into the Democratic Party. And that's what the Democrats are doing, emotionally, to my people. Threatening them to the point where this white man can tell a black man, if you don't vote for me, you're not black, unquote. Yep. Biden fucked up. And the Democratic Party does take the black voters' votes for granted, the same way that they do a lot of working class people's, because they actually don't serve a lot of the people in the bottom hierarchies. We have a hierarchical structure where there are protected classes, dangerous classes, and most of us fit in the dangerous class and are not protected by our government in a lot of ways. We are aesthetically and almost illusionary, almost delusional, but just because the Democrat Party is fucking up so bad, it's just amazing to me that he ignores anything that the Republicans have done or will do. That just sucks. Because there's so much more ideology than these two parties. And it sucks to see Kanye just drag everybody to the Republican side because he believes the Democrats are racist for assuming that black people should vote for them if they want to preserve their self-interest, which, again, I'm not necessarily... The Democrats' platform and ways of going about earning the black vote or the working class vote is dog shit. They're terrible at it. But that doesn't mean that you should flock over to the Republicans because Democrats suck so bad, because the Republicans... not much better. In fact, they are literally the corporate party of gerrymandering, which is a racist voter suppression policy. I don't understand how you could get mad at Democrats and be okay with Republicans, or vice versa. I don't know how people end up on those spectrums. So moving on here on how the race will be decided. Quote, let's see if the appointing is at 2020 or if it's 2024, because God appoints the president. Ooh, if I win the 2020, then it was God's appointment. If I win in 2024, then that was God's appointment. I just like, again, like, he's gonna bring fundamentalism hardcore into the Republican Party. Do you guys not see the danger here? This is a dangerous mix. Fundamentalism and conservatism coming together in the White House. Like, yeah, and yep, we all know this. So, it says on the coronavirus cure, Kanye, quote, we pray for the freedom. It's all about God. We need to stop doing things that make God mad. Fuck, dude. He's almost to the point of like a YouTube conspiracy theorist, for sure. Alright, I'm getting less excited for that new album. Here's what he has to say on vaccines. Quote, it's so many of our children that are being vaccinated and paralyzed. So when they say the way we're going to fix COVID is with a vaccine, I'm extremely cautious. That's the mark of the beast. They want to put chips inside of us. They want to do all kinds of things to make it where we can't cross the gates of heaven. I'm sorry when I say the humans that have the devil inside them. And the saddest thing is that we all won't make it to heaven, and there will be some of us that do not make it. Next question. Holy shit, if he is president, I would be fucking terrified. He's leaning in so hard to the anti-vaccine movement right there. And this is seriously dark shit. This is actually concerning. On deciding to run for president, he says, quote, it's when I was being offered the Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Awards at MTV. I remember being at my mom's house, my mother-in-law, because my house was being worked on. She calls me son, and I call her mom. I was in the shower thinking. I write raps in the shower. It hit me to say, quote, you're going to run for president. And I started laughing hysterically. I was like, this is the best. I'm going to go out there and they're going to think I'm going to do these songs and do this for entertainment, how rigged award shows are, and then say I'm president. And I just laughed in the shower. I don't know for how long, but that's the moment it hit me. This all sounds so wild. It sounds so crazy. This does not sound like the kind of person you want to make level-headed decisions in the point of the most powerful office in the world. Whew! It sounds pretty fucking crazy. All of this has sounded pretty crazy. Oh, god damn it. I want to be excited for this upcoming album. But speaking of that, like, where's Kendrick? Like, I needed a Kendrick album almost a year ago, and we've got nothing so far. God damn it, Kanye. I do remember, too, there was a video of this artist. There's a YouTube channel where they get artists to tell, like, personal stories, and then they animate the stories. And there was a artist who went and met with Kanye while he was in Paris making Watch the Throne with Jay-Z. And I think that was about 2011. And he had told, I can't remember who it was. It's an electronic music artist. I can't remember, but they mostly make electronic music, house music. I can't fucking remember who it is. It's out there. It's out there somewhere. But he said it in 2011 to this guy that he was going to run for president. Not that he was going to run for president, but that he was going to be president of the United States. That was in 2011. So this is something that Kanye has wanted for a while. It's just unfortunate now that he's reaching close to it. He's deciding to go with more of the conspiracy theories, as if that's actually going to reach more people for him to obtain power. But yeah, I don't think I'd want somebody who figured that in the shower while they were writing a song that he was going to be president. It doesn't sound like a healthy relationship to have someone in power with. So God. Quote. On his foreign policy, quote, I haven't developed it yet. I'm focused on protecting America first with our great military. Let's focus on ourselves first. He would literally just be Trump. It sounds like he would just be Trump, but even more of a zealot and also more steeped in conspiracy theories. It says on abortion, quote, I am pro-life because I'm following the word of the Bible. On being a political novice, quote, I have to say with all humility that as a man, I don't have all the pieces in the puzzle. As I speak to you, if we're with a political campaign, a political walk, as I told you, because I'm not running, I'm walking. I'm not running. We, the people, are walking. We're not running anymore. We're not running. We're not excited. We are energized. Someone can say, hey, I got a brand new car for you. It's across the street, and you get so excited you run across the street and get hit by a car trying to run to your new car. That's how they control the black community, through emotions. They get us excited. We're so excited, but then for 400 years, the change doesn't truly happen. Kanye might be an accelerationist, and he I don't know, I really don't even know what kind of race relations or even class relations we're gonna have with Kanye at that time. But like I had said earlier, I think all of these men, anybody really running for power, is just trying to impress their rich friends. So. On the need for, what does that say? Racial healing after George Floyd. Quote, well, God has already started the healing. This conversation alone is healing and revealing. We all need to start praying and kneeling. Another bar after that. But when a rhyme comes to... Oh, Jesus. Okay, so that's a rap part. Sorry. All right, let me restart. This is Kanye on racial healing after George Floyd. Quote, well, God has already started the healing. The conversation alone is healing and revealing. We all need to start praying and kneeling. Another bar after that, but when a rhyme comes together, I'm going to complete it. Not inside the lines created by organizations that we know as our reality. The schools, the infrastructure was made for us to not truly be all we can be, but to be just good enough to work for the corporations that design the school systems. We're tearing that up. What we'll do is we're not going to tear up the Constitution. What we will do is amend. He didn't really answer the question there. And also, he said God would basically... has already started the healing and will heal it. And from that, I even had a little quote from George Carlin last night that if you say it's all God, then you've just run out of arguments. You really have no plan. You have nowhere to go. All you have is this omnipotent nothingness to explain everything for you. And that's a cop-out. I agree with George Carlin on that, and he just copped his way out of that by saying that we need to change schools and the infrastructure and that we're not going to tear up the Constitution. We want to do is amend it. I don't know of anybody actually calling for the tearing up of the Constitution, but that's only if you believe what the far right and the right are saying about these protests in the streets and that they want to destroy the fabric of America. So if he actually believes that, I don't actually see him being supportive of the BLM movement. He might see them as a Marxist terrorist regime funded by George Soros. He may or may not. But with all the conspiracy theories he's already believed and all the right-wing politics he's already talked about, it's hard for me to believe that he wouldn't blame everything on George Soros. Who knows? Who knows, though? This is all speculation. Isn't that great? And it's because he's not being clear. It's because he's not being transparent. It's because he's being so vague that all we have is speculation. So, on Black History Month, quote, "Oh, one other thing. Black History Month. That is torture porn because when that comes up, what do we see? Wait, what we do is we see. Wait, that is torture porn because when that comes up, what we do is we see. And by the way, if I get that vibe, that's the process, and we are going to a beautiful, uplifting, fun, creative process as a people, as America collectively, and show the world how great we are. So here we go. Black History Month every year, they got to remind us about the fact that we couldn't vote. Meaning white supremacy construct, and I said that with the CT at the end. I knew what I was talking about. Our minds are so much more infinite than what's coming across TikTok or Instagram, what's trying to influence our children and the next generation of who we are. I think he's missing the point of Black History Month. It is to remember the suffrage, but it's the same reason why Muslims celebrate Ramadan and Jewish people celebrate Passover. If we do Black History Month, it can be both of a celebration of black culture, but also recognizing the suffrage that they had to get through to arrive to the point that we're at now. Again, he's coming with a conservative Candace Owens talking point, and this worries me. It's not going to help the divide, and in fact, it's just going to deepen it further in certain communities. Because the more people are sold on whether or not they should be Democrats or Republicans, they're going to lose sight on the fact that we're all human beings. All right. On having COVID-19, quote, chills, shaking in the bed, taking hot showers, looking at videos telling me what I'm supposed to do to get over it. I remember someone had told me Drake had the coronavirus, and my response was, Drake can't be sicker than me, unquote. Yep, that is just some media shit right there. The fact that he has nothing to say of substance on COVID-19 is again more proof that this may be a bunch of hoopla. All right. Running in 2020. Quote, God just gave me the clarity and said it's time. You know, I was out there. Ended up in the hospital. People were calling me crazy. I'm not crazy. Between all of the influences and the positions that we can be put in as musicians, you go on tour, you put out all these albums, and you look up and you don't have any money in your account. It can drive you crazy. Through all of that, I was looking crazy because it wasn't the time. Now it's the time, and we're not going crazy, we're going Yeezy. It's a whole nother level now. Notha. So Yeezy is a transcendent level of crazy, let it be known. From me to you, not Kanye, but from me. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Kanye running right now is it doesn't look crazy. It looks on brand for 2020, which 2020 is fucking insane. And it's just great that Kanye would come out here to run a bunch of conservative talking points to convince more black voters onto the side of Trump at the time when we have the highest race tensions we've ever seen. I do think that he may take it a bit seriously because he does want to get his footing ready for 2024 because he is going to need a Republican spot then, right? Then, if Trump actually is willing to leave office and Ivanka or another Trump isn't going to try to take that spot, maybe even Mike Pence might want that spot. Somebody close to Trump is definitely going to take the Republican nomination in 2024. And they're going to run off of the fact that they want to be Trump. But this is a lot of speculation to assume that we're even going to make it to 2024. There's no certainty in that whatsoever, so let's not even talk about that. But currently here in 2020, it's fascinating to me. It does seem now a little bit more that Kanye may actually be actively stealing black votes from Joe Biden, and he's not very quiet about that. And it seems to mainly do with the idea that's been passed around from conservative groups that Democrats take the black vote for granted, and black people are also assumed to have to be Democrat if they are going to participate in politics. So that all of that summed up does make me believe that he is actually fighting for Trump. So cool. Here's Kanye on Joe Biden. How long is this shit? Jesus Christ. He asked him a lot of fucking questions. All right. On Joe Biden. We only got a couple more, though. Quote, a lot of times, just like political parties, they feel all blacks have to be Democrat. You see? You see? This man, Joe Biden, said if you don't vote for me, then you are not black. Well, act like we didn't hear that? We act like we didn't hear that man say that? That man said that. It's a wrap. We gonna walk, all the people. Jay-Z said it best. For the candidates, I just gracefully suggest y'all bow out. Trump and Biden, gracefully bow out. It's God's country. We're doing everything in service to God. Nobody but God no more. I am in service of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I put everything I get on the line to serve God, unquote. All right. Let's just get the fucking Waco shit in here, dude. He just sounds like David Koresh. He sounds like any other cult leader who says, I work through God, God works through me, and thus my mission is divine and not selfish. Come on, bro. Come on. Let's move past that shit. We need real leaders. We don't need this, bro. This is drawing a line of what is patriotic, and it has to deal with God. Come on, bro. I gotta take a sip. On developing policies, he says, quote, I don't know if I would use the word policy for the way I would approach things. I don't have a policy when I went to Nike and designed Yeezy and went to Louis, designed a Louis Vuitton at the same time. It wasn't a policy, it was a design. We need to innovate the design to be able to free the mind at this time. Okay. On the Wakanda management model, a lot of Africans do not like the movie Black Panther and representation of themselves in Wakanda. But I'm going to use the framework of Wakanda right now because it's the best explanation of what our design group is going to feel like in the White House. That is a positive idea. You got Kanye West, one of the most powerful humans. I'm not saying the most because you got a lot of alien-level superpowers and it's only collectively that we can set it free. Let's get back to Wakanda. Like in the movie in Wakanda, when the king went to visit that lead scientist to have the shoes wrap around her shoes, just the amount of innovation that can happen, the amount of innovation in medicine like Big Pharma. We are going to innovate together. This is not going to be some Nipsey Hussle being murdered. They're doing a documentary. We have so many soldiers that die for our freedom of information, that there is a cure for AIDS out there. There's going to be a mix of Big Pharma and holistic. None of that made sense. None of that made sense. Oh, Kanye, god damn it, bro. Like, I was actually pretty optimistic coming into this because I hadn't heard anything from anybody. I didn't want to hear anything from anybody because I didn't want to walk in with a bias, but my bias is building as I'm reading this, and holy fuck, Kanye, please do not run. Just wait until 2024. Bring all the absurdity you want then, honestly, but right now, we need Bernie back, bro. Like, holy fuck. Okay, on prayers in schools. Reinstate in God's state, in God's country, the fear and love of God in all schools and organizations, and you chill the fear and love of everything else. So that was a plan by the devil to have our kids committing suicide at an all-time high, by removing God to have murders in Chicago at an all-time high, because the human beings working for the devil removed God and prayer from the schools. That means more drugs, more murders, more suicide. He's actively ignoring material conditions in favor of thinking that the absence of God in schools is what's causing all of these suicides. I am going to pass on explaining the rest of this because that just says to me he will not listen to professionals. He will only listen to God. And that's a lot worse than Trump only listening to Fox. Is it? Oh, fuck. Ah, God. Not only now are we choosing between the lesser of two evils, but we're choosing between the lesser two evils and a chaotic neutral. I don't know what the fuck Kanye is at this point, bro. On taxes, he says, I haven't done enough research on that yet. I will research that with the strongest experts that serve God. All right, moving on. I don't want to hear the rest of his response to that. When I become president, and this is on China. Here's this thing on China. When I become president, let me make some promises. The NBA will open all the way back up from Nigeria to Nanchang, and the world will see the greatest athletes play. The world will experience the change in their element. The money is going to come back. I love China. I love China. It's not China's fault, that disease. It's not China's fault, that disease. It's not the Chinese people's fault. They're God's people also. I love China. It changed my life. It changed my perspective. It gave me such a wide perspective. My mom is an English professor, taught English in China, which when I was in 5th grade. Interesting. Moving on. On capital punishment, quote, thou shalt not kill. I'm against the death penalty, unquote. Okay, again, but he also said that he would use the military to protect his nation. But that would also have to mean that he has to pull out of all of our current wars that we're in right now, because those don't necessarily have anything to do with our protection, right? So, yep. Fascinating how often he would have to use that thou shalt not kill when we've had the most imperialist army since the 1900s. On policy killings, one of my to-do lists is to end police brutality. The police are people too, to end laws that don't make sense. Like in the George Floyd case, there was a black guy that went to jail, and it was his first day on the force. So if it's your first day on the force and it's your training day, and this OG accredited cop with 18 violations already starts filling out, are you going to jump in front of that person and lose your job that same day? Especially in this climate when 40,000 people lost their jobs. This man was put in a position where, and also he probably didn't realize that the cop was going to take it that far. He probably was so scared and shock paralyzed, like so many black people. I'm one of the few black people that would speak openly like this. He did not answer the question. But he said that, what are you going to do, lose your job? George Floyd lost his life because that man would not lose his job. I don't know if that says more about the individual or the police in itself or Kanye's morals. Because is his job more important than George Floyd's life? And if it is, why would he sign up for the force? This is bad, Kanye. This is bad. You need to bow out, as you say, and just release the album. We would all appreciate an album. I don't think many of us are appreciating this. So, moving on his other priorities. Clean up the chemicals. In our deodorant, in our toothpaste, there are chemicals that affect our ability to be service to God. All right, well, he's on this whole fluoride thing. He's trying to decalcify your pineal gland so you can get in touch with higher beings in the 4th dimension. God, Kanye. Not a single policy statement or position in this entire thing, but here we go on his campaign slogan. Quote, well, my second album is called Late Registration. I got a rap. The other thing is my campaign is Kanye West. Yes. Not yip. Not yeah. Yes, yes, yes. When I'm president, let's also have some fun. Let's get past all the racism conversation. Let's empower people with 40 acres and a mule. Let's give some land. That's the plan. I hope that if he got into office, he would immediately just try to give every black person a 40 acres and a mule, because if that doesn't send the country into a civil war, I don't know what would. Because the 40 acres and a mule reparations were for a long time ago that have been denied up until maybe Kanye's presidency. But I don't think he's going to win. I don't think he's going to win. The Candace Owen talking points are not going to get him the votes he needs to win, and it is going to split the vote, and that's if he actually gets his court filings in order. Otherwise, he is just going to convince more black people that the Democratic Party is racist, which it may or may not be. I don't like the Democratic Party, but it's going to move and sway them towards an actual party that is much more aligned to fascism right now than it ever has been. So, not a good move, Kanye. Not a good move. That was a horrible, horrible interview, and I cannot wait to actually hear more of his plans, because this is going to be a rough ride. 2020, just coming in, just rolling. Let's get it. Moving on with more Kanye news. The Five react to Kanye's harsh criticism of Joe Biden. I just clicked this for a little bit to see what they would say. I don't really care or know, but let's get it. And then we'll jump into my final piece.
Kanye West giving a very interesting interview on his run for president. Yeah, you have another choice in the race. The rapper breaking with President Trump, saying he...
It's fascinating that she says we already have another choice. We don't. We have a guy who's just super popular.
He's taking his red hat off, but that doesn't mean he has any love for Joe Biden and the Democrats, saying, quote, "A lot of times, just like political parties, they feel all blacks have to be Democrat. This man, Joe Biden, said, if you don't vote for me, then you are not black." Yep. Well, act like we didn't hear that. We act like we didn't hear that man say that. That man said that. He sure did, Juan Williams, and it didn't sit well with a lot of voters. What do you have to say about that?
Well, obviously it didn't bother 9 out of 10 black voters who are still voting for Biden. But, you know, you can't...
All right, if that's a real statistic, that 9 out of 10 black voters are planning on voting for Joe Biden come the general election, that is exactly why Kanye West is in there promoting his birthday party. Either to take the votes from Joe Biden so he doesn't have them at all, or if his campaign fails, it still might convince some to go over to Trump. So even if it's not 9 out of 10, it might be 7 out of 10. And maybe he can get it to 6. But either way, this is a dumb move and does not help our discourse or the community of the United States.
Discount these popular culture figures, Kennedy. After President Trump's victory, now I must say there are rules and...
Bruh, listen to him say this, because how many times do celebrities speak out about certain issues and they're like, celebrities, we don't care what you think. And now it's like, go ahead and run for president. We care what you think.
After President Trump's victory, I think the door's open. Now, I must say there are rules, and Kanye, I think Dana pointed this out last time we discussed it, he's missed filing deadlines in like 5 states. So that puts him at a tremendous electoral college disadvantage if he's actually going to go out there and run. And I think, I read this interview, his thing against vaccinations, calling it, you know, beastly and the like. I mean, what happened? Polio? Has he forgotten? I mean, I think that's a real negative. Now, he does say in the interview that the government should be run like Wakanda. Well, might be good. I don't know.
The government might be run like a fictional place that we all saw in a movie. And this guy's like, I don't know, that's not a bad... Like, he's just looking around at his empty studio apartment with his green screen, having his fucking shit playing behind it. And he's like, I don't know, that's not a bad idea, is it? Like, is it? Can we think of anything better?
Might be better than the one we have, but
that
it's
is
all
an uplifting
fantasy
image
to me.
Yeah, but, you know, I have to say, I like that he's getting in there, mixing things up, and talking about things in ways that no one else is, because the two-party system gets so stale. Jesse, he also said that Joe Biden is not special. Is Joe Biden special, Jesse?
Yeah, no, that's so true. He's not special. I just can't believe Juan's actually saying that Kanye West has missed some filing deadlines. Like, okay, where are we right now? I don't think he's going to make those deadlines, Juan, but I will tell you this. I think if you're a Democrat and you feel disenfranchised, that you should write in Kanye West's name on the ballot this November. If you live in Philadelphia, Milwaukee, or Detroit, and you're feeling Kanye, you should write his name in because, hey, Kanye's Kanye, and maybe he didn't take the red hat off, maybe just threw it in the closet for a second, but I'm feeling pretty good about a Kanye write-in.
And you know why? It's because he's not going to take votes from Trump's base. He's not going to take votes from most of Trump's voters because already they're playing this as it's fucking ridiculous. And they're saying, hey, write him in. That'd be funny, right? Come on.
Situation.
Or, Greg, maybe he's working with President Trump. Maybe they're in cahoots.
He could be.
And the president has advised him to get into the race to siphon off some critical votes from Joe Biden.
He could decide the election if he chooses to. The most important thing he said in the interview is that he doesn't mind if he takes black votes from the Democrats, which then helps Trump, because he said, I think I'm quoting him, that saying that the black vote is democratic is a form of racism and white supremacy. And this goes back to what I said yesterday. He's creating a voting bloc independent of parties to get both sides to vie for that block. Remember, the Democrats don't have to vie. They don't think they have to vie for blacks. Republicans try to vie every single election, and they don't do that well.
I don't think they do. I don't think Republicans try that hard I don't think they try as hard as they try to, rather than getting their votes, they'd rather just suppress them, especially if they're already in the positions of power, which makes it incredibly easier to suppress the votes.
He has to run as a Democrat in order to get the Democrats to pay attention to him, or they're going to lose.
I don't know. Dana, how do you see this race shaping up with...
Did he just allege that the DNC is going to kick Joe Biden out so that Kanye can win it for them? Is that literally what he just suggested at that last part?
Election, and they don't do that well. He has to run as a Democrat in order to get the Democrats to pay attention to him, or they're going to lose.
I don't know. Dana, how do you see this race shaping up with the... my 11-year-old, you know her. She asked me the other day, she's like, Mom, you're voting for Kanye? So I don't know what to do right now.
You're not voting for Kanye.
Celebrity
You're not voting for Biden either.
Gives you an opportunity to be able to have a platform, of which he does. I will say, in Juan's defense, I'm the one who brought up that he had missed the filing deadlines, and that is just a fact that he has. The write-in is certainly a possibility. I do question the judgment of giving this first interview to Forbes. Obviously, that interview should have gone to the Daily Briefing, and we'll be happy to have him anytime.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Tomorrow, we'll see what happens, because those follow-ups, they're coming fast and furious, like the fastest 7.
All right, so that was literally like a puff piece. Like I
think that's a real negative. Now, he does say in the interview that the government should be run like Wakanda.
I just pressed the fuck out of my buttons and got all over the place. But like that is the most puff piece I've ever seen Fox News do in a long minute. And it's all thanks to Kanye. He gave them 4 minutes and 16 seconds of distraction from real issues. But yeah, it's a joke for a lot of them. It's a serious possibility of him siphoning votes from Biden, especially since one of them said, go ahead and write him in. Like, who gives a fuck? Because you can write in anybody you want, whether they have a campaign or not. So, it has begun. The votes are attempted to be siphoned from Biden, or even quite possibly just moved away from the Democratic Party. Cool. I don't actually have a candidate that could replace either of the parties that you're looking for, whether it be Trump or Biden, or now Kanye. But if you feel disenfranchised or not really feeling it, I would say check out Vermin Supreme's platform and his propaganda, because his is a very ironic, worthwhile waste of a vote, rather than Kanye West, who seems to be standing for nearly nothing except for the Republican Party. At least Vermin Supreme isn't standing just for the Libertarian Party. He's actually standing on this platform of I want to say it's an anti-fascist platform. No. I would say Vermin Supreme is on an anti-fascist platform. If there was an Antifa political party, maybe that's Vermin Supreme. And that moves me on to my next piece. My next and final thing that I want to get into, which I haven't even watched yet because I always like going in cold on these things. But Ben Shapiro decided to talk about what Daily Wire calls media lies about Trump's great speech defending American history. Shapiro responds. Now, I did a little bit of the Mount Rushmore speech, and very fascist. It is very fascist, and I find it very interesting that Ben Shapiro cannot recognize it because he was so quick to call Obama's State of the Union fascist. But yet, when an actual fascist argument comes out, he says the media is lying. But I'm not sure if it's the fascism that he's claiming they're lying about yet. I just know that it's fascism, and when it's time to defend fascism, you call none other than Ben Shapiro.
He starts off by saying something what should be absolutely uncontroversial and would be from any other president, right? Which is, America is pretty damned great. And guess what? The men on the mountain were great men. That doesn't mean that they were sinless men, but they were great men.
Let's get comfortable. I didn't think that was the most controversial part. I think his whole speech is pretty controversial because it's a very fascist speech. But yeah, American exceptionalism is a very key component to American fascism as we know it so far. We're still taking notes on it as it's still currently unfolding.
And pointing out they were great men does not mean that you have to overlook their sins. Here was President Trump talking about this yesterday.
There could be no better place to celebrate America's independence than beneath this magnificent, incredible, majestic mountain monument to the greatest Americans who have ever lived. Today we pay tribute to the exceptional lives and extraordinary legacies of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Teddy Roosevelt. I am here as your president to proclaim before the country and before the world, this monument will never be desecrated. These heroes will never be defaced. Their legacy will never, ever be destroyed. Their achievements will never be forgotten. And Mount Rushmore will stand forever as an eternal tribute to our forefathers and to our freedom.
Now, what's hilarious to me about the media reaction to this is that Trump...
I wonder if he thinks forefathers, means because there's 4 of them on that mountain. I wonder.
Is talking about people who literally are calling for the destruction of Mount Rushmore, right? They've actually talked about this. They've said that Mount Rushmore is bad. There have been headlines from the Washington Post and the New York Times in the last week saying it's on stolen Native American territory, which, again, the New York Times...
And it was also etched in stone by white supremacists.
Is located in, last I checked, Manhattan, which was bought for a few beads. Okay, so the New York Times is free to hand over its building anytime it wants to native tribes. I do not think they're going to do that anytime in the near future. It's very expensive territory.
There were movements a long time ago about giving back the stolen land. We may be beyond that to give proper reparations to the Native American indigenous community. But to say that just because the New York Times exists on the same stolen land as the Mount Rushmore doesn't really negate the fact that the Mount Rushmore was built literally by and for white supremacy.
But the media have said, well, who wants to tear down Mount Rushmore? Nobody wants to tear down Mount Rushmore. Right? How could you even imply that people want to tear down Mount Rushmore?
I don't
same
care
people
if we do.
Who are upset with the implication that Trump is making that people want to tear down Mount Rushmore cannot understand why anybody would be upset with the sloganeering about Black Lives Matter, because many of us are upset with the implication that there are a bunch of people in America who think Black lives don't matter. Right? That's the objection that people have to saying Black Lives Matter, not that they don't.
when you guys say that Black Lives Matter, but then continually, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not exonerate, but it is exonerate. It's exonerate and acquit murderers of black people, armed murderers sanctioned by the state. When the state then allows their murdering to go on completely unaccounted for, like the officers are not held for account. The state allows them, and in fact, in a lot of cases, the state will build the case for them so that they can walk even easier. That sounds like we have to convince a system that these lives matter and should not be overlooked, even though it is a police officer killing them. So I feel like the right has a very extremely mixed message of what Black Lives Matter actually means, and I think it mostly originates from how much they've been trying to spin this story away from its original message.
Don't think Black Lives Matter, but that they are annoyed by the implication that there are a bunch of Americans who think Black lives don't matter. So the media read deeply into every implication that Trump says and then ignore the fact that his implications happen to be true, while at the same time ripping on conservatives who suggest that the implications of certain phrases are unsupported by evidence. Okay, Trump continues along these lines and he talks up July 4th. Again, all of this stuff is wildly uncontroversial. Now, okay, I want you to, let's see if you can spot it. Can you spot the darkness here? The darkness and the...
The fact that he can't is a problem, and like I said, he was very quick to call Obama's State of the Union fascist, which I never read his article, so I don't even know why he believes that neoliberal is a fascist. But Trump's had hit from Vosh's coverage of it. He even brought up, I think it was Faulkner's 14 points. I could be wrong on that name, but the 14 points of fascism, and Trump's speech hit about 11 out of 14. Which Vosh rounded to about 70% of the speech. Or 70% of the list was completed by the speech. So the fact that Ben Shapiro is having a hard time and is now about to cover the speech in 15 minutes to then obfuscate and hide the fascist elements tells me that there is more fascism in here than originally I had thought. But he's making a pretty funny stink face in my free screen, so that's pretty cool. He looks like somebody farted, and he can't stand it. But we can spot these things. But the unfortunate thing is that Ben Shapiro is going to bring his context into it, and then we have to unravel it from there, because that's what the American fascism movement is going to do. Is it's going to wrap itself in dog whistles, so that we're not familiar with us being governed beneath fascism.
Malevolence and the calls for racial division anywhere in here. I'm going to play a lot of clips of President Trump now. See if you can spot it anywhere, because I got to be honest with you, I'm missing it because I have eyes and I have ears, and these things function. So if I'm not, I feel like I would get it. If it were there, I feel like I would. Here's President Trump talking up July 4th, which here's the reality. People think that he's racist because he's talking up July 4th. Right? They actually agree with Colin Kaepernick. They think that Independence Day is bad and evil, which means that Trump is correct. Here's President.
And I feel like ignoring people's actual feelings towards this, and Colin Kaepernick didn't say bad and evil, but by ignoring his feelings on the 4th of July and then continuing to then mischaracterize Colin Kaepernick's feelings about July 4th, I think that is a racist act. And again, I don't think Trump's speech was racist. It was just fascist, which unfortunately has elements of racism within it, especially with the conversation that we're having around statues and Black Lives Matter. When you stand on the side of keeping up statues and getting tired of hearing Black Lives Matter, you might be a racist, because you can't see the ideas and the symbolism that these statues stand for on top of the ideology that supports the system as is, which we know has been building upon white supremacist history. You have to take in historical conditions, materialism, to understand how we got here. And that starts with recognizing why the statues were put up and what for. So why and when these statues are put up are very important to why they should be torn down. just as much as who those statues represent and their ideas. So let's just get into the cherry-picked clips that Ben Shapiro has here, and let's see if we are able to spot some fascism. I'm here to spot the fascism because Trump has been pretty good at obfuscating any racism, but that's also, I don't believe he's a racist. You know, he might have racist elements in him, like biases. Everybody's got biases, right? But I don't see him joining the KKK or any specific racist movement. What I see him doing is exploiting the racism in others so that he can either maintain power or hide the fact that he has anything to do with that person's suffering by exploiting racism. I mean, that's what his whole campaign started out with, was exploiting xenophobia and people's disdain for Mexicans. So,
Trump.
We gather tonight to herald the most important day in the history of nations, July 4th, 1776. At those words, every American heart should swell with pride. Every American family should cheer with delight, and every American patriot should be filled with joy, because each of you lives in the most magnificent country in the history of the world.
Exceptionalism.
And it will soon be greater than ever before.
Why is this controversial? President Obama used to say this kind of stuff all the time. It was not the end of the world. Trump says it, and it's apparently the end of the world because they can read the seething racism pouring out of his orange head. He's a bad orange man.
All right, so he's steering the conversation here. I don't see actually any racist elements in there, but by him saying that we have to all celebrate July 4th in his very specific way is very fascism to me. And also, like I was saying earlier, by ignoring Colin Kaepernick and his feelings towards July 4th and probably many other African Americans, because Colin Kaepernick's feelings remind us of Frederick Douglass's from back in the day, his speech. They don't like Independence Day because it celebrates the freedom of a nation that had slaves. And so if we can finally take care of our race issues in the way that we can, then maybe everybody can enjoy July 4th. But for a lot of people, they only see a government and a certain demographic within the nation constantly holding them back from progress, i.e. any of the riots from Red Summer 1919. That doesn't help African Americans feel any safer, better, or happier under this system. And we constantly ignore it and tell people that they have to be happy on the 4th of July. And I think the point is moot. It's pointless to say that you have to love me because I want you to love me. Like, that person isn't going to necessarily love you just because you want them to. It doesn't work like that. It's a two-way reciprocal road. You got to figure out how to work that and earn your love. And to say that everybody born in this country has to love it just because they were born here, that's pretty fascist. So
everything he says, he can say the exact same words as Barack Obama in the exact same way. And it's like, well, but Obama meant because he was defending the moral arc of history toward justice. But Donald Trump, he's evil man, very evil. Here's President Trump talking up the founding fathers and saying a true thing.
Our founders launched not only a revolution in government, but a revolution in the pursuit of justice, equality, liberty, and prosperity. No nation has done more to advance the human condition than the United States of America. And no people have done more to promote human progress than the citizens of our great nation.
Okay, so the speech is beautifully written. It's not like incredibly well delivered here, but it doesn't matter. The president's message is spot on. And the fact that no Democrat would give the speech is incredibly telling. It's incredibly telling. There is nothing controversial in this speech. There is nothing that should be controversial in the speech. Here's President Trump suggesting that the 56 patriots who gathered in Philadelphia were good. We're doing a good thing. Which, again, if you're living in America and experienced...
He's not actually going over any reasons, like any arguments as to why people would say these clips are that. He's just playing clips and saying, what's the problem? What It's almost like a highlight reel, but at the same time, it's him just constantly pausing the highlight reel to be like, no racism here!
The glories of its benefits, you should recognize. Okay, and we all are. Okay, the greatest privilege on planet Earth right now is being an American. That is a privilege. Okay,
They talk about inalienable rights, right? Americans talk about inalienable rights so often, rights that were given by God and cannot be taken away. But then, when faced with criticism, the state says, it's a privilege to live here. I'm sorry, the system didn't say that, but Ben said it for them.
That is a privilege. Not white privilege, not wealth privilege. Living in the United States is a privilege. And if you don't believe me, try living in China and see how it goes for you. Truly. There are true repressive places on Earth. America is not one of them. Here's the president.
It was all made possible by the courage of 56 patriots who gathered in Philadelphia 244 years ago and signed the Declaration of Independence. They enshrined a divine truth that changed the world forever when they said, all men are created equal. These immortal words set in motion the unstoppable march of freedom. Our founders boldly declared that we are all endowed with the same divine rights given us by our Creator in heaven. And that which God has given us, we will allow no one ever to take away, ever.
Before Ben gets into it, I was just saying this. We talk so much about our inalienable rights, how they were given by God and can never be taken away. But just before that, Ben was talking about how it's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to have the rights that are given to you just because you were born here. And I don't know what he's going to say next. I don't think he's going to defend any of his remarks. He's just constantly saying, I don't see the controversy. But yeah, we are deep in fascist rhetoric at this point, Ben. So I am curious as to what you're going to say next about this, because Trump ignoring the fact that when the Declaration of Independence and that all men were created equal, all of this being written, there were slaves. There were slaves at that time. People were enslaved and being enslaved by people constantly preaching the idea of freedom. So by not acknowledging the hypocrisy, it just kind of perpetuates the system and then allows you talking heads to continue to obfuscate the issue by saying there's no racial past to deal with. You're just ignoring it. You're just ignoring it by talking about how great it was back then and ignoring the problems that there were back then. That's not going to help the country move forward. That's the racism that Trump is promoting. It isn't direct racism from him. It's mostly exploitative racism that he's extracting from his base, or maybe even that crowd that's there that keeps cheering him on. But go ahead, Ben. Defend the inalienable rights.
Okay, so again, nothing controversial here. Are you hearing the darkness? Are you hearing the despair? Are you hearing the racial division?
Yes.
I'm not. Okay, so here's where President Trump starts going after the people who are actually attempting to tear down American history, the people I call disintegrationists in the book.
Here we go.
Right? Here's where he goes after them.
Here we go.
His characterization of them is accurate.
Red
He's not
Scare.
making it up. It's not out of his head. It's not him creating figments of his imagination or fake enemies, as Max Boot suggests. How do I know that? Because I just spent half an hour describing to you just the stuff that happened over the weekend that proves that what he is saying is not fake. Hey, here's the president talking about people who wish to destroy our common history.
1776 represented the culmination of thousands of years of Western civilization and the triumph of not only spirit, but of wisdom, philosophy, and reason. And yet, as we meet here tonight, there is a growing danger that threatens every blessing our ancestors fought so hard for, struggled, they bled to secure. Our nation is witnessing a merciless campaign.
I think what I want to find fascinating too about this part is that the people who fought for civil rights fought and bled for their civil rights, but the people he's talking about that fought and bled to hold on to a system that wanted slaves and also wanted Jim Crow. This is the heritage that he's speaking of, and this is the history that he is speaking of. So by not being direct racist, again, he can say he's not racist, but by using these dog whistles of heritage, history, forefathers, and the fabric, it's building a very vague statement for his base to formulate the idea of what patriotism and Americanism is, and he kind of coerces them with the same right-wing talking points that you hear from Fox News and other right to far right talking heads.
Campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values, and indoctrinate our children. Angry mobs are trying to tear down statues.
I just want to say, too, that Betsy DeVos is, like, really working hard to get more charter schools than ever. So if there's a thing about to indoctrinate your children on a mass level, I'm pretty sure it's actually corporations more than the public schools or colleges.
Of our founders, deface our most sacred memorials, and unleash a wave of violent crime in our cities. Many of these people have no idea why they're doing this, but some know exactly what they are doing. They think the American people are weak and soft and submissive. But no, the American people are strong and proud, and they will not allow our country and all of its values, history.
And I said this in my stream from that time, is that he's using they versus us language, like the protesters in the streets aren't American. That's priming language for violence. Ben's going to reinforce it in a bit.
And culture to be taken from them.
Okay, so which part of that's false? There are angry mobs trying to tear down statues of the founders. They're literally doing it, like right now. Also, they are trying to erase our values and defame our heroes and do all of these things and indoctrinate our kids. And we talk about that, like, where's the lie? Show me the lie. Okay, then the president goes on and he describes cancel culture.
The lie is the mischaracterization of the movement, which you guys have been pounding into your echo chamber since it began.
Culture, which again is absolutely real. It is and if you don't believe me that it's real, ask the former editor of Bon Appetit, ask the guy from the Southern Food Association who's currently being canceled, ask the former editor of the Philadelphia Inquirer or the former op-ed editor over at the New York Times. Why don't you ask Nicholas Christakis over at Yale, because he's not at Yale anymore, or Brett Weinstein over at Evergreen State College. He's not ever at Evergreen State College anymore. Ask Brendan Eich over at Mozilla Firefox. Yes, these things are real. Cancel culture is quite real. It is very, very real. Okay, and it comes for us all sooner or later. My suggestion has been we just all cancel. Let's just declare universal canceling. And then if everybody is canceled, nobody is canceled. But the president goes after cancel culture, which is ugly and terrible. And again, show me the lie.
He used, like, anarchist theory that if no one rules, then no one obeys. Or if no one obeys, then no one rules. But he applied it to cancel culture. I think I saw a leftist tweet that if cancel culture doesn't exist if you ignore it. Maybe that'll be a lot easier for you, Ben. But yeah, a lot of people do get fired because they're racist as fuck.
You can't. It's real.
One of their political weapons is cancel culture, driving people from their jobs, shaming dissenters, and demanding total submission from anyone who disagrees. This is the very definition of totalitarianism.
Totalitarianism. He can't say that word. So, at least there's a highlight that he may not be able to be a totalitarian because he doesn't know how to say the word. But totalitarianism can't be enforced by a group that uses peer pressure online to get what they want. That's not totalitarianism. It's a lot more closer to mob rule. So it's kind of weird that we're shifting in between this mob rule totalitarian thing, like as if they're, somehow coexisting. Like, I get in the Communist Manifestos, it said that we needed to install the dictatorship of the proletariat, but you kind of sit there like, well, that's a fucking contradiction. And that's what that's what they're banking on here at this point, is to use contradictions to paint us both as weak totalitarians. Weak, unpatriotic American totalitarians. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but it's enough to weaponize people against their fellow neighbors. This is class warfare. Thanks, Ben.
And it is completely alien to our culture and to our values, and it has absolutely no place in the United States
He has such tiny
of
hands.
America.
So naturally, the media wish to ignore what Trump is saying here. So instead, what they decided they're going to do is just point out that he can't pronounce totalitarianism in that particular clip. Right? That's the key. That's the key. They're going to say cancel culture doesn't exist. Literally, there are people.
I didn't do that. I didn't do any of that, but I did make fun of him for not saying totalitarian right. And that's actually the second time I've done it on a recording because it's fucking funny to me. He, as president, he should be able to say words. But I did not say that cancel culture does not exist. It is a thing. It's mob justice in a way, but in the internet spaces, and that's what terrifies them so much, because they can't use the internet to be their hate speech echo chamber. They're too afraid to get canceled, and that's the way it should be. I don't think cancel culture is always in the right. There's not an example off the top of my head that I can think of, but maybe James Gunn. You know, maybe like digging into somebody's past after they've done some like human growth is probably pretty pointless. ContraPoints, that's another one that was I actually was pretty hard at disagreeing with, because she is such a active member of leftist discourse, and yet she can get canceled because she doesn't have the same exact views as every leftist that follows her. There's certain times that cancel culture is fucked up, but when it gets to a point where they're attacking bigots because of their bigotry, then that's the same thing that you get from a community trying to shun the worst elements of its community so that it isn't a part of the community. You see what I'm getting at here? So cancel culture has its uses, but at the same time, I think it's funny that they're just terrified of it. Another weird stank face from Ben. It looks like somebody just like shoved something up his butt and he's like, whoop!
People online whose entire job is to try and cancel other people, and literally their entire job is all they
Nobody gets paid. Nobody gets paid to cancel.
do all day long is they try and find a way to cancel members of the media they don't like or outlets they don't like, and then they tweet out things like cancel culture isn't real. I am not kidding you. This is a real thing that happens.
Can he ever provide sources or data? Because it's just to go, I'm not kidding you, this is real. All right? I saw Ben Shapiro paying some guy down the street to say Trump isn't racist. All right? I'm not saying that I don't fucking know. It's just fucking amazing that people can say that like shit exists, and then now people are going to use it as some kind of argumentative talking point. It's dumb.
Okay, so again, show me the lie, spot the lie, and spot the divisive racial language. Okay, where's the division? Where is it? I'm missing it. But according to the media, he declared the culture war. Not only did he declare the culture war, this speech was about defending Confederate monuments. I'm not kidding.
All right, so the racial divide actually comes from his stance, particularly on the monuments. He is refusing to do anything about monuments. He does not want to change names of military bases. He doesn't want to take statues down, and he wants to defend any statue that has any leader on it by holding on to Confederate heritage and history. That's the racist side of it. Ben Shapiro doesn't see it as a race because it's not direct racism saying he wants slaves or calling people the N-word. But by supporting the same movement that wants to hold on to Confederate iconography and Confederate history, almost to the point of revisionism, lost cause revisionism, almost there, that's the racism. But the actual divide that's really coming out of here was that he made such a leap towards fascism as a reaction to the movements that are happening in the streets that are mainly left-wing. And what he wanted to do was then bolster American exceptionalism, bring up American pride, and give call to actions to say it's time to stand up for the foundations of America as we know them today, because They're afraid of some structural changes that could change the way that the country operates. The divide comes from that because we're not reaching segregation. You know, that's not something that's being repeated throughout history. Not dealing with the racist past and also the police system as it stands, which the police is institutionalized racism in a lot of ways. He is also bringing back the Red Scare, which divides the population up based on ideology, based on personal beliefs and ethics and morals. So by doing that, that is an even bigger divide than just the racial divide by just fighting against colored people. It includes more people than just the colored people. So that's where the divide is coming from. And Ben Shapiro's obviously ignoring it because they don't want to point out that Trump is demonizing a section of America while they demonize a section of America. They actually have incentive to do this, and they've been doing it longer than Trump has been president. So we are just this is the resurgence of the Red Scare in the midst of the most fascistic regime in American history. So it kind of gives me more to worry about come 2021, depending on who wins. So
Kidding. This is what they said. And they said that this was a dark, divisive, and horrible speech.
yeah.
Here is the president suggesting, correctly, that cancel culture has now infused most of our major institutions.
In our schools, our newsrooms, even our corporate boardrooms, there is a new far-left fascism that demands absolute allegiance. If you do not speak its language, perform its rituals, recite its mantras, and follow its commandments, then you will be censored, banished, blacklisted, persecuted, and punished.
What's fascinating is that none of the protest movements have that exact power. There have been individual cases, but the government is the only one who can do this on this level to the exact letter of what he is talking about.
It's not going to happen to us. Make no mistake, this left-wing cultural revolution is designed to overthrow the American Revolution. In so doing, they would destroy the very civilization that rescued billions from poverty, disease, violence, and hunger.
Billions.
And that lifted humanity to new heights of achievement, discovery, and progress. To make this possible, they are determined to tear.
Every country has done that, but that still doesn't exempt them from the things that they did wrong or even the human rights abuses that they committed.
Tear down every statue, symbol, and memory of our national heritage.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, this is all right. It's obviously true. But again, the gaslighting continues apace. And then he talks about how they've rewritten American history, which of course is correct. And he talks about how any movement that seeks to dismantle these treasured American legacies can't really love America.
He doesn't know what gaslighting means. Analyses? That's not gaslighting.
What they want to do is transform America, which, by the way, is the language that Joe Biden then purposefully used over the weekend. Right? Trump said these people want to transform America, and that's what Joe Biden says he wants to do, is transform America. Now, here's the most amazing thing. People called this speech racist. They said it was racist. Okay, I'm going to play a clip now that is not only not racist, it is openly anti-racism, right? So here's President Trump speaking universal principles from our Declaration of Independence. And again, you tell me, where's the white supremacist message here? I've been told that this is a white supremacist speech. See if you can spot the white supremacist message embedded in this particular clip.
All right.
We will state the truth in full, without apology. We declare that the United States of America is the most just and exceptional nation ever to exist on earth. We are proud of the fact that our country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and we understand that these values have dramatically advanced the cause of peace and justice throughout the world. We know that the American family is the bedrock of American life.
I'm not saying any white supremacy specifically, but the continual ignoring of racist past and the continuation of a systemic racism, a system that suffers from systemic racism, institutional racism, and implicit bias racism. By ignoring these things, that allows white supremacy to continue on completely unabashed. But what he's actually seeming to purport here is more of American supremacy than American exceptionalism. And to be perfectly honest, I think that's just as deadly as white supremacy, because that does also, too, allow for more colonialism, imperialism, and also it allows the government to kind of do whatever it wants to its population, with a portion of its population going, the government's always right. So by looking for only the specific things that Ben Shapiro wants you to look for, like when he says, where's the racism? Where's the racism? We're missing the other things, the little subtleties, the little tiny pinpoints that Trump hits to actually hit the mark of fascism. And that's what Ben does, is that he points out fascism when a neoliberal comes into office, but he completely ignores it and hides away from it when an actual fascist is in office. Fascinating.
We believe in equal opportunity, equal justice, and equal treatment for citizens of every race, background, religion, and creed.
But his policies do not support his statements, so this can in itself be called a lie.
Every child of every color, born and unborn, is made in the holy image of God. We want free and open debate, not speech codes and cancel culture. We embrace tolerance, not prejudice. We support the courageous men and women of law enforcement. We will never abolish our police or our great Second Amendment, which gives us the right to keep and bear arms. We believe that our children should be taught to love their country, honor their history, and respect our great American flag. We stand tall.
Like he just said in that clip that he indoctrinates children to blind loyalty to the American flag. Not a healthy way to have the government, and I feel like the actual founding fathers would be like, oh my god, they've become such a fucking dogmatic monolith that like this is tyrannical. What are you guys doing?
We stand proud and we only kneel to Almighty God.
Does that sound dark and terrible to you? Any of that? If it does, then I think that you're getting America wrong, because that seems like pablum, right? I mean, that is perfect. That is honestly just bumper sticker stuff that every American should believe, right? That's like the easiest thing in the world. That's the stuff you learn about America when you're in third grade.
So what Ben's telling me here is that America is inherently fascist. Yep. The America, you know, for as much progressivism as it says that it has, it is right of center. It is right of center, and drifting further and further right since 1865. I mean, even then it was pretty right wing. It's just it had even more freedoms because it had a smaller government at the time, so it just didn't have freedoms for black people or any other colored people. So god damn it.
Right? We want free and open debate. We like tolerance, not prejudice. We support law enforcement. We don't want to abolish the police. We think people should love the country. Like this is very easy stuff. This is American as apple pie, motherhood is good kind of stuff. Where is the racism in we believe in equal opportunity, equal justice, and equal treatment for citizens of every race, background, religion, and creed? Every child of every color, born and unborn, is made in the holy image of God.
The racism is in saying all of that, but not really doing anything to improve the material conditions for those individuals. Or for that group. Yep. It's racist to ignore them policy-wise. You can mention them in speeches and ignore them in policy and still be racist. Yep.
Is that racist to you? Because I was told the speech was a racist, fascistic speech.
Yeah.
You're going to have to explain it to me.
He finally said fascist.
Really, I'm missing it. This video is sponsored by Blinksale. It is the revolutionary invoicing software for small businesses. Spend less time building.
All right, I did explain it. I did explain it, and I did it point by point. I didn't pick certain clips out of what he wanted to say. I found certain points in his argument that I felt needed to be addressed, and I did the best that I could. That speech was extremely fascist. It was American exceptionalism, and it was also a lot of American supremacy that just tries to hide the fact that we have a lot of systemic and institutionalized issues that we need to take care of. But that's not what Ben Shapiro is interested in, and he's interested in holding the status quo even further so that we can dive deeper into a fascistic Judeo-Christian theocracy. He might vote Kanye. But that's going to be it for me today. This was a bit of a longer one. If you are listening to the podcast, subscribe, review, do whatever the fuck you want. You don't have to do any of it. I host it live on Twitch if you ever want to come say hi. And I also save the archive on YouTube so you can see the full video and sources and links and all of that shit. And I just want to thank you for joining me in this class warfare report. As the class warfare continues on, I hope you all stay safe out there, stay healthy, wear a mask, and punch a Nazi. In Minecraft, of course. Never commit actual crimes. But if you happen to see a Nazi out there in Minecraft, don't forget to give them what you think of them. Thanks for joining me. I'm on Twitter. And that's pretty much it. I got a blog. Go find that. Yeah, there's not much else to say. I don't know how to end this fucking podcast. I just want to fade into obscurity until motherfuckers maybe start paying me to do this. But I'm just doing it out of the kindness of my heart. I honestly do it because there's so much right-wing bullshit out there. I think it's good that we get a little bit of left-wing perspective every once in a while. But if you disagree with me, please let me know. Let's have a healthy discussion. If not, then I hope you enjoyed, and we get to another chance to break down the